Hello, welcome to another episode of Toronto Ultra's Merk and Maven podcast. We have a beautiful day ahead of us. We haven't chatted about the major yet. There's been season 2. Joe and I have fallen even deeper in love, and Ultra look fantastic. So let's get naughty.
Yeah, all of the above. It hasn't been that long. It's only been a week.
Yeah,
it's only been a week. You know, obviously, some roster changes are going down. We'll jump into that, but I think for us, we're going to recap the major, kind of go through our thoughts on each team, the bottom 4. But today is 2/8. It is 2:50 p.m. So if at any moment, or you're watching an episode and you want us to talk about a roster change or something that happens, you know when this was recorded. So maybe we didn't hear about it, because that happens. That does happen time to time.
There's multiple things that went down like while we were streaming today. Yeah. So
yeah.
See if we get fucked or we don't. Sometimes it happens. But no, you want to talk
It's a little season 2.
about season 2 or our romantic walks together that we've been doing?
Obviously we've just been walking around. You know, it's been, I don't know what, it's February. It's like 50 degrees. It's just a random like a week and a half, which, listen, I'm not going to complain about it because it's going to get cold again, but I've been loving it. Yeah, it's quite nice to get a refresher of like the warm weather is coming. It's coming.
It's beautiful, but I just want people to know that the entire neighborhood and area thinks that Joe and I are in a loving relationship, because we walk around this
with
neighborhood. We walk for miles with his son Theo, you know, in the stroller, and it's just Joe and I. And they're like, "Hey," and we're like, "Yes, we are a beautiful married couple. How are you?"
Absolutely, nothing wrong with that.
No, I know. It's just great. It's just so.
And I'm thinking now, like, probably with him having less hair, they're probably, oh, he looks a lot like you. You know what I mean?
You're probably not wrong. So to season 2 we go. Our walks have been great though. It's been beautiful. I'm trying to get some exercise. Got to get my blood pressure down and my weight down. You know, I'm trying to get sexy for this summer. We're gonna go on vacation. I need my body looking good.
Yeah.
If only got good by rubbing it like this, that'd be great. But listen, before we get into like the CDL stuff, we can talk a little just you know, our normal streaming. We loved Fortune's Key back in the day. It comes back and they put a giant hole in it. Listen, you've been playing it for a couple days. I just played today. I still had fun. Other than the sun like skull fucking me, I had a great time. Just
the first thing I showed, I dropped it out. I was like, why is this sun so bright? Like, why do we do this every time? Listen, I think I'm excited about Fortune's Key being back. Yes, I've been having fun. I just don't think these changes were needed at all. Not one bit. I'm just going to be honest. Like, the way I explained it to my chat, like, the cult of Rebirth Island, because there is a Rebirth Island cult. I have no idea why, but there is just some infatuation with that map. By the way, it was in Alcatraz and Blackout, so that was the original. But anyways, I'm just thinking if they brought that back and changed it as much as they changed Keep, I think that like the world would be on fire, right? The community would go insane.
If there was imagine like courtyard outside of like the prison, if they just put a giant, like a meteor in a hole, people would lose their minds.
And I'm not saying I don't want like a facelift or some updates.
Yeah.
I really liked Keep. And it's like, maybe they were thinking if we don't change anything, people will be mad, but I don't know if like, it's a map. Like, I guess that's the beauty of having all of the Resurgence maps. It's like, if you want to play something different, I guess. But
yeah. That's
my only thing. Listen, a lot of the changes for both multiplayer and Warzone, the aim stability stuff, all great changes. It seems like they're repairing a lot of what MW2 was. Still working through all those changes that were made to the base game, going back to regular Call of Duty, which I think makes everybody very happy. But the map itself, I'm very sad about, because I had a great time on Keep. I mean, I'm still going to have some fun. That was my thought process, was like, I don't know if this was necessary.
It was always sort of like a warm up, have a little fun map to me. Like the only time we really grinded it was like when Caldera like got screwed up at the end. They lowered like 100 players. We like played it a lot, but outside of that, it's just like a goof around for a few hours. Like I don't know how much I can play ranked. We played a little bit today. It's all right, but I don't know.
Yeah, ranked Resurgence as well. It came out. I'm gonna give it a couple of days. I'm not mad at the fact that they got ranked. I just don't know why I think Heretics would be a lot of fun in ranked.
I'm sure it's going to be there eventually. I don't know why they did that first. I don't know.
I don't have a clue. Kind of sucks. but it just feels like this might get old quick for. Like even talking about stream, and if you've watched Warzone, a ranked match, like there's a story, stuff builds up. I don't know. This is just like, all right, fight, all right, run away, we're dead. Fight, run away, we're dead. We'll see how it plays out. Maybe people will like it more and more. But that's it with Warzone. That's all. That's all we got. Some new maps were added as well. Vista is one, which I think is on the radar of the community for a potential CDL map. Obviously, you know, we had some changes. We also had the Ram 9 and BP50, which, I mean, I think you and I, because the MCW got nerfed again, you and I we've talked about it. It's not that like I want new guns. I just feel like with 4 MCWs, this game was a little bit stale on some maps, right? Like a terminal hardpoint. Obviously, the hills didn't help it. The objectives didn't help it. But SMG play is just kind of fun and exciting.
Yeah. Like it's crazy because like there's a lot of stuff about this game that's like better than previous years, and I don't know if it's just the maps, the guns, like it. Yeah, when I'm just watching a map and it's just 4 people L triggered, I'm just like,
yeah,
it can kill you. It's just you want to watch people run around, get a little crack sometimes with the sub, get a little twisted, which I think it started. Well, probably regardless of any changes, will start to come in a little bit more as time goes on. It usually does, but like, yeah, I don't need to see 4 like MCWs ever again.
Yeah, so we'll see if it happens. I mean, the BP50 was kind of be like a flex gun. Pros are deciding what they like, what they don't like. Ram 9 as well as a potential sub option. Listen, the fact is the pros are going to do what they think will add as much of a skill gap to this game that there can be, right? That's sort of what we've talked about on this podcast. That's what GAs are and what they try to do. And I'm not going to see, I don't play the game as much as they do. So, yes, would I like to see some changes? But if that's what they decide, then that's what they decide. Now I'm going to cast.
Well, yeah, when we're talking about stuff, like even though Joe's a former player, like we're mostly just talking about from a casting perspective now. Like what's entertained us, like what's a little more fun. Like, you know, you talk about the new map coming in, we'll try and transition this. Like when Terminal Hardpoint was out, I was like, thank God. Listen, it might be, we'll talk like Nameless and stuff. He's like, it's a lot of fun to play in ranked and whatnot. I'm like, okay, casting it, that map is ass. I never want to see it again. Get it out. Hardpoint is just sort of how we were talking about, like 4 MCWs, just like pre-aimed and people just holding, like just due to the sticky spawn security side and how the map plays out. Like it can just be a chore sometimes to watch. So that's one thing where I'm very happy. And I haven't played Rio yet, but just watched a little bit and saw it. I don't know. It gives me like I care about things being like pretty and fun to look at when you're casting it over and over and over again, watching it over and over. Sort of like gave me a Mercado vibe, just a little, you know, colorful, seemed kind of fun, vibrant. So that already kind of made me happy. I know it's silly, but like, it's
the same thing with Vista too, which I think people are excited about. It's kind of like the seaside vibe. But so if you missed it, CDL for stage 2, Rio is in for Search and Destroy. Skid Row is out. Rio is in for Hardpoint. Terminal is out. So Rio, you can play it in ranked now. It is going to be mixier. You're probably going to see 2 to 3 subs, maybe 4 on some hills in Hardpoints. It is very mixy, which I think is good. I feel like we saw it for a bit on sub base, but then the spawn changes. I think for teams with strong SMG players, you need a couple of options to play the vetoes on your side, right? And that's how this will affect the league. Because that's what sub base was for a moment. It was like sub base in Karachi where we're going to get one of these if we're an SMG team, like base team. On the other side, you're going to play a Skid Row, a Terminal, an Invasion, right? Your vetoes come in. But with the sub-base changes, it kind of went away from that. It sort of like cracked out gameplay. So I'm glad we have another option in there for this.
Even sub-base, like early on, I feel like it was still, even though it was cracked out, it was still a lot of MCWs. Like
that's true. Well, it's just because all the power positions on it.
100%. But like, if you're telling me one where, because that has been like weird for us when we're talking about teams struggling. Well, you know, we're going to get into teams and stuff, but it's like with this like meta the way it's been, just I'm sure it's odd for some teams when you're like barely pulling out a sub or just on a couple of hard points.
Yeah, so now these teams will, you know, sub heavy teams will have a Karachi and a Rio to play from, right? Try to get those in. So excited for that for stage 2. Again, Vista it sounds like the community and the players will be testing it. Again, the timing of this is always difficult when you have updates. You have to be respectful, right? The league to every single level of the CDL. So challengers, I think, has a cup in a couple of days, and they can't just
Real
add
soon.
that.
Yeah.
And
As much
even
as I
for
love
stage
it,
3,
send it,
like
send it. But yeah.
yeah, even for stage 3, like is a week or 2 weeks enough practice? I mean, you could. I'd probably say not, but if you just want to say screw it and make maybe a better viewer product, go for it. But obviously, the league's going to respect the pros, so we'll see what happens with Vista. Maybe for stage 3, we get that in there. But all right, Maeve, let's get into kind of Major 1, and we can take a look at the points as well for kind of where we're at after it.
Do you want to mention like the new guns real quick? I guess we're just waiting to see what happens with that though. As far as like
I kind of
Ram 9 or BP50. Okay.
Yeah, I mean BP50 like flex gun, maybe too strong. Ram 9. Again, we'll see what happens.
Yeah, I guess we're just waiting to see if they're going to GM or use them or what's going to go on. But
yeah, the only thing with BP50 is just kind of ugly.
Yeah, I saw like that clip that was going around that Brian Saint tweeted like Clay like peeling somebody on the invasion cross, and I was like, well, actually, like, he like 4-bullet him there. I look pretty strong, but that's
yeah, who knows? All headshots. All right, so we're gonna start with our bottom 4. We'll do it that way from Major 1, and then we'll talk about team changes. We're gonna start with our friends over at LA Thieves. Listen, they started losers round 1. They were 1-12 in hardpoint throughout stage 1. That is not going to cut it. It's just not. So they drop Joe Deceives and Cammy, and they bring in Crimp and Nasty. And I think very similar to last year, the team who won the first Challengers tournaments, a lot of their players got pushed up. Like the team that won Boston was Asim, Crimp, right? Those guys are now in the league, and that's just what you're going to see. When teams are struggling, you got to make moves. So we'll see how it plays.
Yeah, and it's interesting because they were like, we watched some of their scrims early. They seemed a lot better than they were performing in matches. I think even
I watched a lot of scrims
in their first coaches poll.
Surprised.
First coaches poll, weren't they like 4th or something like that? 4th or 5th or somewhere in that ballpark. I think they were pretty high up. Like, I think, yeah, from what we saw, they looked strong. I don't know what went wrong once they got to match time. I know you and I are a guy that we want Cammy to get back and be that god, but the fact is they had to make a change. Yeah, 1-12 in hardpoint, like no-brainer. You had to.
I think the thing is, right, is with this team, with this early roster, with Joe Deceives and Afro, I think that was kind of your star power, your muscle, and just with the meta, just didn't happen. They were very limited, and maybe just Cammy didn't put up the numbers they needed for the MCW. If you look at their one match from Major 1. Ghosty had like a 1-4 and everybody else kind of struggled, right? They lose in a game 5. Yeah, we'll see what happens. I mean, you look at the picks for Kremp, obviously a lot of upside there. What do you think about the nasty pickup?
Well, you're the one that always loved Nasty, dude. Like I think even when those Royal Ravens teams were struggling, like you were a big Nasty guy. Like he was the guy, when a team was kind of in the dumpster, the one that was still performing and like didn't look like he was just kill whoring, like he was making plays, like really just looked to be sort of a level above at times last year. So I'm sure you were kind of excited to see him back in the mix because you thought probably should have had a spot to begin with, I imagine.
I mean, this is obviously an Afro pickup, right? We go back to the team. Who are we targeting? Afro and Nasty seem to be a bit of a duo, and Afro's like, I want my guy. Nasty's been performing well. He can perform well. If you look at him at his best, it was as a flex with an AR. I think that's when he was his best. We saw those moments. You're going to need numbers from him, right? And then, you bring in Kremp. Yeah, we'll see what happens with this LA Thieves team. Yeah, I mean, the fact is, you look at the coaching staff, the pedigree of this team, they should be competitive, but 1-12 in hardpoint, that's the main goal. Because if you look at 5-3 in control, 4-5 in S&D, it's not like it's that bad. But 1-12 in hardpoint is god awful.
And that's just one of those things. Like, how often is there a dog shit hardpoint team that becomes like a good one? It's really hard to fix. Like we've seen teams like that are like, I don't know, perform well in the other modes that are doing well enough. I don't know, even Atlanta FaZe is an example when they've had their tough hardpoint years. Like they work on it all year for like little minor improvements. When you can't win any hard points, I don't know. There's enough of a body of work there. I think it's time to make a change. Even if you were doing well in scrims, like we've seen enough.
Yeah, I mean, they played Karachi 6 times and lost it 6 times. So
yeah,
that's the new
roster. We'll see. I don't know. don't really have any expectations yet. We'll have to kind of wait and see how it goes. Next to what? To Heretics. This one,
Vamos.
Yeah, it was a bit surprising in the sense of, listen, they were sort of all over the place for me when you talk about like tiers, because they came out, they had a soft schedule, they performed really well, kind of got a wake up call and got fried at one point, bounced back with the 3 over OpTic. You're thinking they've got a chance to maybe make a run, and then you never really. They come to the major and just don't do anything. I think the thing that really was surprising was Journey, who I don't have his stats from the online league in front of me, but he was a solid player for them. They were all pretty solid across the board. Like was he sick that weekend? He got smoked, like absolutely fried.
Yeah, no, he really did. His stats, the 2 series. So they got 3-0'd by OpTic. They got 3-0'd by Vegas. Journey had a 0.57 versus Vegas and a 0.64 versus OpTic. Not good at all. I'm not really sure what happened there. I don't really think he was sick, because I think if he was sick, they'd probably look at it as an excuse to just be like, all right, you'll bounce back type thing.
Well, it still like surprised me in the sense of like, he was pretty solid in the online league. Like the team was performing pretty well together. Was it just like an off weekend or what? It seems like there might be more to it in the sense they make a change.
Well, I remember the interviews. The interviews even before like they like 3-0 OpTic out and won a couple of matches. They were saying they've been getting smoked in online scrims. Like they were like, "Wow, we're surprised. We've been getting fried." So I think when trouble is brewing, they kind of have an idea, right? They have an idea. So they were going to bring back Eric Boomin, and he was at the start of he was in the roster at the start of the year. And then he got benched. Not exactly sure why that happened, but he did. But listen,
like right before the league started, wasn't it?
Yeah,
like the day before matches or something. If I remember correctly, like it happened right before, and we were like, "Oh, okay."
Yeah, and I think he got like top 3 in the Challengers event. Obviously, he just went back to work. I view this, Maeve, maybe a little bit differently than the other teams that we have in our league, because obviously this is like a family, right? Like, there's no other Spanish teams. There's not like. I think these guys are going to look out for each other. But I also think if someone is struggling, they're not going to be afraid to pull the trigger and be like, go to challengers, get your confidence back up, and we'll bring you back if the timing is right. Like if something, like I honestly do. Like who knows? Journey could be back in this roster.
100%.
Like I think a lot of these rosters, you see roster teams, that player's never coming back, but you may see multiple rotations of the same players on this team.
Yeah, and he got on a solid team with like Major and Cruz, if I remember correctly. So like, I forget what the full roster was, but that should be a solid team. Major is always out there grinding through it. But no, I think you're right to look at it like that, like 5-man roster. I would be surprised he comes back. I don't know, it just caught me off guard kind of that a change happened, because I forgot, to your point, that they were struggling so much online, because when you see they're sort of up and down over the course of the league, like I thought this is a team they'd sort of battle forward with and try to improve, but we'll make a change and we'll see how it goes. Forward to Breach.
Over to Breach. So Boston Breach, they lose in the close series versus Surge. They started to lose this round 1. Obviously, I think a big part of this is they just had a really tough online session, right? They go 2-5 online. And when you're hosting a tournament, you don't want to start and lose this round 1. It's just it's a tough place to be, right? Like you have this build up with the crowd. And they just lose in a game 5. They lose both S&Ds to Seattle. You can see right here, competitive in the respawns, but 3-8 in search and destroy. And I mean, even when we talked about it before the major, that was kind of the focus. You just had some players in Priesta and Slasher who could not get comfortable in S&D, right? If you look at those stats right there, they're not pretty.
And it's like this trap game in the sense of like you just watch Surge get bodied by Ultra. Like it looks so uncompetitive, but they end up being like one of the hottest search teams on the weekend. So you run into that when you're a team that's struggling in search, and suddenly your hometown favorites or your hometown heroes, whatever, are out of it. But what, Surge kind of came alive after getting beat up by Ultra, and they just were clicking in S&D.
Yeah, I mean, it's really it. We'll get to Surge here in a bit, but Breach they make a change. I will say one thing that is good for them. Slasher put up some insane numbers for them on LAN in their match. I think maybe it was like, okay, just get to LAN, maybe start in winners, try to get top 8. and the experience we have here will kind of take over. But he has a 1.45 in the series. He had 18,300 damage. That may have been a series record. I don't know. I'm going to maybe make a Maven number up. But listen, they win sub base. They just lose 2-4-5. And I think the Karachi hardpoint, if I remember, they kind of threw. I think they were like in control of game 4. They kind of let that one slide. So, I mean, there's some chances here, but they're making a change, and they're going to bring in Asim. So, Asim has been like, if you looked at the challengers polls, they had him as the number 1 player. So I'm very excited that he's back in the league.
Yeah, he was last time he was in the league. We know he was kind of all over the place. I don't think he was pleased with his performance. Obviously, like never seemed to be all that consistent. I don't know that he needed a reality check, but maybe he's going in, building your confidence a little bit in challengers and bouncing back into things will be great. I mean, I know we love him as a person and a player, so I'm excited he's back in the mix. I think everyone, you want a team with that type of guy. You put him and Slasher won at LAG, so they've already been on like an underdog sort of thing and had been able to pull out a victory. So, I mean, that was a weird one. that was one of the weirder events we've had so far in the CDL with them getting the dub there. But I mean, there's just some kind of pedigree there. Yeah, I think that's the one where I opened up the interview with Slasher. I just said, "What the fuck?" Because it was a weird one.
Yeah, it was like, are we actually here? This fever dream, like what the hell just happened? Now, listen, I think though, if you look at this roster now, obviously Snoopy is kind of like your 1A, right? You are hoping that this guy truly turns into a superstar. Slasher's got to be this consistent guy, but then you have 2 guys who have kind of played a similar role, right? Very selfless. Asim and Priesta will do whatever it takes. But Asim, in my mind, like, I think he's got to bring sort of that selfish, maybe more centric style to this roster. It's what they need if they want to win against the top teams in this league. They're just going to need more slaying at times.
Or just how their duo works out, he sets Snoopy up to be an absolute lord. I mean, I think
that's what like Priest is here for, though. Like as well. Like,
I more mean of it as like a sub duo, but like we don't have our typical sub duo right now in this game.
True.
So it's so weird to like think about that. I'm so used to like every title there's that dynamic, which is the most important thing on a team. It's like not a thing.
I guess all I'm saying is someone here has to elevate, right? Like whether it is Asim continuing to play at this really big level, because I mean, bro, I remember
Priesta clip the other day, bro. The Priesta clip that was going around.
I mean, he's always been a demon. Always, that guy could shoot. But I just think of Asim like, I'm gonna go play this site and get dodge 10 grenades. Like, play this insane site, try to do as much as I can. Like, he puts himself in tough positions where I think now you come to a team where you have guys that will do that, and I can make some great plays. Like, I can be the playmaker, which he hasn't always been. So I just see that happen.
I mean, I would love it just because I would like to see him frying with like kind of the up and down. Like there are a couple of years he's had. I would love to see him just slamming people, be a little more selfish. But that's probably a thing I feel like with him or a Priest. It's probably tough to like flip that switch sometimes because you're just so used to sort of being that guy that'll do anything. But
well, maybe now he can. Maybe his time and challenges. He's like, screw this, I'm going to do it. I'm doing what I can. All right, now off to maybe the biggest surprise of the event. The New York Subliners are world champions from last year. And you can see there on our breaking point cards, 7 8 and hard point. That's probably the thing that stands out to me. Kind of carried by their search and destroy throughout the stage. Control wasn't great either. Listen, they lose a very close series to Rokkr, 12 points in hard point and 1 round in control. Still feel like they should be able to beat with the talent they have, a team like Rokkr. And then they drop down and play Carolina, and they just get outclassed in the hard points. And very surprising with
it's just
the team you have.
It's just weird because like we'll always say this whole pack-a-punch thing, you bring in Sib to sort of fry, and like there's just been those games where he's putting up most damage in the lobby. He's got a 1-2, whatever. Like he is the guy on the map that's going out and botting people, but they're losing the map. Just seems like there's been a decent amount of that. And like listen, it's only natural that we're going to keep saying, "Well, I kind of miss Priesta. Would Priesta be the difference?" I mean, I just think it has to be like even looming in the back of their minds a little bit. Like, shit, did we screw up? I don't know.
Do you think this is just a meta thing? Like, because I think this team's engine is the subs, right? Like, as good as Skies and Sib can be, just feels like when Kismet and Hydra at their best, that's when this team's really just dumb.
That was the next thing I was going to say. Back to like my point early in the podcast, and we were talking sort of about just how teams have been kind of just struggling. Some like it's just not that natural flow, or even like that just standard or typical COD. This team might be totally fine, but it's not. So it's just sort of a, will Rio coming into the mix maybe be enough to help this team a little bit when it comes to the vetoes, or are they just going to rip it out of there and it doesn't really matter too much? I don't know, but it might be one of those maps that kind of helps them a little bit.
Yeah, I think it should be. I mean, obviously they have multiple aspects to fix. I guess the good thing for them is I feel like when you have teams like this, they're very good at like respawns, and then it's sort of like a hard focus on search. And this is kind of the opposite. Their search is one of the best in the leagues, 9-3. And I think it's just finding a map pool because, 3-2 on Karachi, hard points. And then outside of that is where it gets a little dodgy. I mean, 0-3 on Terminal, they played that multiple times. That's 100% a map where guys like Hydra, guys like Kismet can't do anything. You know exactly how everyone's going to play that map.
What do you think is harder historically? Like, if you are a Carolina who's doing well in hardpoint, needs to kind of figure out search, or if you're a New York who's got search kind of down and you need to kind of figure out the respawns, like, I guess in my head, I always think it's going to be a bit easier to improve in search just with.
I mean, a lot of that probably depends on the roster. I would just say.
Yeah. There's a lot of factors, obviously, but
I think this team should be able to figure out respawn.
It should. Yes.
It should.
It is talented as hell. Yeah.
So I guess this is just a question of, can they get better in stage 2? Will Rio help them? Will a meta change help them? But fact is, I mean, I guess you're in 5th place. You have 60 points overall in the CDL. It's not like it's panic time. It just wasn't a good showing here at Major 1. That's for sure.
Yeah.
So we'll see what happens with the subliners. All right, that was our bottom 4, I believe. So now we're going to go to our 7th, 8th, and a bit of a surprise, I guess, was Las Vegas.
Yeah, I guess we thought, dude, who was we're going in? Do you know who in your head was like the dark horse? Like, did you have one like pinned down? Because obviously Rokkr is the team that makes the run, but did you have like a dark horse? Did you give it any thought?
I think I had like. No, I don't know if I really had like a crazy dark horse. Honestly, if you told me
going into it,
like pick 2, like I probably would have picked the Legion or Surge. Because I think Legion had a lot of very competitive matches. It's just they threw a lot of games. So,
no, the crazy thing. So, like, listen, I'm just gonna tell a story. This was just kind of funny, dude. So Purge has a series where like I think it was the lowest like KD in a win ever, or whatever the stat was.
24 and 52 in a 3-0 win.
Yeah, it was the.
It a 0.46.
Yeah, I think 0.46 and like a win was like the lowest ever, or like close to it. I forget what the exact stat was, but like their next series, the green room all gets together and we start pulling for Purge because like Purge just dropped the 0.46. We're like, all right, we're staring them in the minimap. We're all on our feet. I haven't seen Nameless that animated in a while, bro. We literally became a room just cheering on Purge. It was the most fun I've had watching Call of Duty in a while. We were having a blast. It was just the Purge green room. The guy got slapped. They got the W. We were just cheering on Purge, dude. He could do no wrong. If he made a mistake, we didn't care. We're like, Purge is the best. He's getting baited. It was so funny, dude. We were just like on this like Purge train, bro. All trying to pull him up. And he had some big plays. He actually stepped it up a little bit, but unfortunately they lost.
Yeah, so they go up 2-0 over LAG and then they lose 3-2. And this isn't the first time this has happened with this team. It feels like maybe just the mental a little bit off where they get reverse swept. But he did play much better. He had like a 1.01. It was a very close series, but they end up losing a Game 5 Terminal 6-1. Yeah, I really like this trio. I think I've said it multiple times. This sort of Standy, Nero, Attach. I think it's a really strong trio. It's just could Purge step up, but I don't know have you seen this timeline now?
It looked like there was a scrim. Okay. They're scrimming, and then what is it right after this scrim? Basically, the rumor about like Geo coming in or whatever happened.
Yeah, so it's going to be tough for you to see, but I'll read this to you guys.
No, I think I have the tweet.
Everybody tuning in. So they scrim. So a shout out to Scrim Intel for posting these. So they're scrimming Vegas. Geo drops 36 on Karachi. They win. Geo drops, was it 20 on Rio? They lose. On Skid Row Hardpoint, he's got 34. He's 34 and 18, double positive. On Subbase, he goes 21 and 22. His team wins. Right. So they're beating a pro team. This FaZe Black squad now. And then after that series, Gio is now the main target to replace Standy as it stands. I don't know what happened, but they were like, that kid is insane. And it still kind of seems like this is up in the air. There's nothing official. There's like clips of Standy. I think it was last night where he's like, yeah, these are good guys, but kind of screw them type thing. So I don't really know. I think a lot of people were surprised by these, that like Standy was the target with some of the numbers that Purge put up.
Well, I think Purge was the lowest KD in the league through a lot of the online portion. So yes, I think it is surprising, but I just don't know if it's one of those. Listen, there's a lot of scrims we don't see. You have a coaching staff that's really diving into stuff. Listen, I'm using this primarily as an example, so don't take it as whatever, but like maybe they're watching it like Standy's not going in first when he should, or he is baiting in spots he shouldn't, or the pacing is off where they feel more comfortable. It seems surprising though. I don't know. I'm trying to think of how to like justify it when Purge has been struggling so much, but I feel like there's got to be something they're seeing in scrims or something the coaching staff seeing that maybe like he's being left out the dry in spots. People aren't going into the order they should. People aren't taking the routes they should. Just little things that maybe we're not seeing is my guess, if this even happens, but it would be surprising. Yeah,
I think it would be surprising just knowing this kind of talent that Standy has. Again, we'll wait for official channels, but that is the current rumor for this Legion roster.
Well, listen, he's been dropped and picked up a fucking lot in his career already. So like,
it's true.
Feels like there's something going on.
No, you're not wrong with that. Yeah.
I feel like he's been in and out of teams more than any player in the league that's still in the league that hasn't dropped down to challengers. I am totally making up this stat, but I feel like Standy is 100% bounced around more than like anybody.
Well, I think he's more just like benched, comes back with Rokkr. Then he got picked up for Vegas last year. Yeah, just didn't qualify for champs. So,
probably totally exaggerating, but like it just feels.
No. I mean, there was moments where he didn't get picked up. Maybe some people were like, "Why? What happened here?" But we'll see what happens with him. And maybe for Purge, this is, if I'm going to play the second sub, maybe a more comfortable position, which will help him, which is obviously something that's very important. So we'll see what happens with this Legion lineup. Listen, I think the best case scenario for Legion is Nero played really well and Attach put up some crazy numbers on LAN. They 3-0'd Miami. Probably should have beat LAG, but they didn't. In terms of a first stage for Legion, if you're a Legion fan, not the worst place they have been in. It feels like you have a foundation here, like you do. They're in ninth place right now with 25 CDL points, where like last year and the years before that, you're like, are they going to find some CDL points?
Yeah, I mean, last year I think there was more of it with Clay and that team, but like you were the laughingstock of the league for a long time. So I think just being competitive, sure. I mean, they're not shelling out a ton of cash for a roster. But if you can be competitive, and I don't know, I'm curious to see what happens, because I think this would shock a lot of people if that change went down. But that's one of those, I think, just where there's more to a team than many realize.
Yeah, you're not wrong. All right, off to the next team, and maybe the crowd favorite in Boston. I'm not even kidding you. I think honestly,
I had the most fun casting Carolina without question.
No, and I think the crowd did as well. Over to Carolina, who we saw before the major. They brought in TJ because Real had. They brought in Fellow in TJ because Real had visa issues. Then they go through the team change, and they looked competitive online. But then at LAN, yeah, they looked great. I mean, at least in their respawns. So they end up beating New York, eliminating them in losers round 1. It was a crazy match. It was a great match. They win both of those hard points. They're able to win a search and destroy. I think it's just, we're excited to see this roster develop now.
I mean, they you know, I mentioned this many times in the podcast, where like Clay has said before, like usually it takes like one event and he knows if he has a team that can like win. And I don't know how he feels exactly right now, but I feel like in that short amount of time that we got, the drastic improvements they saw, especially in Hardpoint, we know that they had basically zero S&D practice going into the event.
Yeah, you can see that right there. It's 2-11. That's not good, by the way.
Yeah, but what is it with this actual roster? I mean, it's not good, but you didn't play that many. Because what did you get? You got two league matches going in with this full roster?
They lost to FaZe in a game 5.
It was 2 game 5s.
Thieves in a game 5.
Yeah, it was 2 game 5s.
But I think they won all the hard points.
Yeah, you saw the potential there with the hard points.
Well, and I think Clay, that's just kind of it. Like, if we're beating some of these teams in hard point, like that to me is a.
Well, I would think if I had Clay, fellow
test,
TJ in the history of like their careers, like I would think, give us some time and search to destroy, we're gonna be fine.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
but will they improve in search? Will there be a fall off elsewhere like we've seen with teams in the past? I find myself rooting for this team. I want them to succeed, just based on some of the struggles you've had, obviously, for just this franchise. You always find yourself rooting for Clay a little bit because he's been competing for 400 years. TJ was frying, bro. He was looking like prime TJ at times.
I think that's it. It's going to be
while keep doing that
while getting your S&D maybe under. It's not teams are going to catch up in respawns or figure out your map pool, but against some of the best, like, can you keep playing at this high of a level if you are TJ, right? Gwyn felt like he didn't play his best once TJ and Fellow were out of this roster, so we see Gwyn continue to improve. Clay was shooting. I'm not worried about Clay. It's kind of the other pieces of which can they maintain this high level in those respawns as they improve search.
Yeah, I think Clay's just at this point, he's going to have maps where he has taken over, and then he'll have this occasional dud. It's what it's going to be. Like he'll have
probably like you. Dud, I just can't move my thumb.
Yeah, I got to wear my.
Yeah, get your brace on.
This is my life now. I don't have it on right now, but I'm having some chronic inflammation in my thumb joint. Yeah, no. Listen. Listen, Crowder had to wear one too, guys. I've been struggling hours into my stream with thumb pain and like my thumb being very stiff. So I ended up going. I thought it might be like arthritis or something. It was my fear. I got to wear this thing when I'm not playing. I went to an orthopedic surgeon, orthopedic doctor. They basically told me it's like chronic inflammation because I play a lot of games off stream too. I'm always using my thumb. It's never healed. It's been going on for like a year or two. And it gets to a point where my thumb is just sore and so tight that I kid you not, I can't aim. Like it feels like I'm using a piece of wood as a thumb. So now I'm taking anti-inflammatory. I'm supposed to wear this little brace thing on my thumb when I'm not playing. That's 38 years old. That's life.
And this is a lesson to all the young gamers out there, maybe some CDL pros if you're listening.
Take care of your hands.
Take care of your hands. Yeah, I mean these are the tools, You and I were just laughing though because I imagine those orthopedic doctors, and you're going to see this come up a lot here. Like you're not the first. You are just the wave of the starting wave, because there's going to be a lot of this coming in.
Yeah.
We're all going to be replacing our hands with like titanium robotics of some sort. I don't know.
I just broke down. Eventually, it's like I got to go to a doctor. Dude, I can't do this anymore. Like I'm like frying for a while, and I'm like I can't shoot straight. People are like, why are you shooting circles? I'm like I can't feel my thumb. I can't move it. Like I can like close this thumb like to here. I'm trying to get an angle of this. Like this is this thumb. That's as far as I can go. I can't do shit with it. It's just so tight. So I'm trying to heal it.
Yeah. So work on that. Take care of yourself, everybody. Take care of even your hands when you're playing games. And don't death grip the controller like Maven, because that's probably the biggest issue here.
Listen, I have been trying to drink less caffeine, and when I drink a little less caffeine, I do that less. So I'm trying to work on that. But yeah, I just really like to grab my controller.
Yeah.
I don't know what's wrong with me.
Speaking of caffeine, over to Seattle Surge, who this is our fifth, sixth teams now of the event. Listen, there is listen, this team started off. You and I casted. Did we cast that Surge Toronto match? We did. Yeah.
Did you say, did we?
Yeah, no, I honestly like.
Joe looked at me when it was over and said, he goes, that is the least competitive series I've casted in my career. And I was like,
I don't know what the fuck that was. Okay, that's the honest truth.
Well, it was also our first series, right?
Yes.
Yeah, it was our first series. Yeah, we were having
all hyped up.
We were having some audio issues too, and the games were restarting, and like we were a little out of it, but from other distractions you guys wouldn't see. But then the gameplay, I was just like, are we being trolled? Like, what is happening here? It looked like Ultra was just running at them without a care in the world. Like they were playing like an AM team, that like a top 128 AM team. Like it was unreal. just body slamming them.
That's
To the point where
I thought they were trolling. Yeah, the Skid Row Surge.
Yeah.
I was like, what is happening?
It was 4-0. Like,
We're being
bad.
trolled. I actually thought like someone,
well,
they have the wrong input on or what, but they just, I mean, that's when we were like, holy shit, how good is this Ultra team, right?
Well, I think for me, I thought we knew Ultra was good. I think I was more thinking, wow, you know, these GAs and stuff and the inability to scrim, like, look how far back Surge is. That was my thought at the time. I wasn't really thinking that Ultra was that far ahead. I was thinking Surge are just, they've been able to scrim. You know, they're playing like shit. But obviously, with the rest of the tournament playing out, Ultra are a lot better than everyone. And that becomes more clear. But in the moment, no, I wasn't really thinking about Ultra as much as I was like, wow, Surge are getting smoked. It's hard to tell in the moment sometimes until you see how their stuff plays out.
Mm-hmm. So yeah, they get stomped, but then they bounce back. They win in 2 Game 5s versus Boston and Carolina.
Yeah.
Taking out, they became the villains very quickly of the weekends, just with beating Boston and then beating Carolina. Like I said, they, honestly, even with some of the later matches on Sunday, the crowd was very much behind that Carolina team. That may have been the loudest that room got.
Oh yeah, even our production team was like fucking with people, like with they show like Illy, then they show Clay, like rah, boo, rah. They was going back and forth. It was that was the most fun I had casting over the weekend. It was fun.
Yeah, I mean, you just have minimal consistency, I think, from a slaying standpoint and respawns, right? This was kind of the issue with this team. We kind of knew it could happen. You just needed some players to step up. Great search and destroy squad. It's how they stayed alive in the tournament. It's how they're not in a much worse position, because right now they're sitting in 6th in the CDL standings with 60 points. But there's just some rumblings going around about a potential roster change inbound. This just came out a little bit ago from Intel CDL. First, we had potentially exploring options of Illy. There's then people wondering, is it Arcades? Nobody really has any idea. But today it came out is that Brezzy is expected to join Seattle Surge, according to the rotation. Brezzy was a French player who's played with Abuza. We've had him in the CWL Black Ops 4, right? I mean, he was fantastic.
He was their best player, like with those French teams. To my best memory, it was him, Whalers. I forget the exact rosters, but like he was in my head always like the best player back on the Vitality teams or Millennium or whatever they were playing under at the moment. But I remember you and I always like he was our favorite, like just for
then he played with like was it like E6 at some point in the end of Black Ops 4?
Jesus.
Yeah, I'm gonna look now because I'm gonna go Black Ops 4. That's when he really had a great year, and I was like, how's this guy not in the league? Yeah, so he was on. They qualified for the Pro League with Denial. Then he joined Elevate. Then he got on E6. They finished 4th at COD Champs.
It's funny because I'm thinking Vitality and Millennium. That's just years before that.
Yeah,
it was like the French Warriors. It really is years before. Wow.
Yeah, no, I was the Blast. So they finished 4th. He played alongside General Kismet, GodRx, Mayhem, and I was like, he's gonna probably be in the league. It doesn't happen. Obviously, everything with COVID, sticks around, sticks with it. Obviously, he's doing what he can. And then Vanguard kind of crushed it too. He was on that team with Kismet in like Havoc when they won like all the tournaments in a row. Either way,
Linz and Hydra are both just raising the stock of French players show bit by bit with how they've been performing. I'm bullshitting, but like honestly, shit, those two have been dominating.
I mean, obviously, all drama aside, I think we just thought with how this team is playing in respawns, if they want to win, this team is going to need a change. Maybe you get a Booza to the AR role again. He's had moments as a sub, but all we heard last year is that this guy's the best main AR in challengers, should be a main AR, needs to run an AR. We don't get to see that. So maybe Brezzy coming in puts him into that spot. We get the best of Booza, you get a great Brezzy. This Surge team is competing with the best.
Yeah, I guess the question is just if it is Illy or whatever ends up being. Like he was the backbone in Surge sometimes. Like he would get hot, and him just sort of like brushing off all the booze and stuff and going on streaks in the Search and Destroy. Like, do you lose a little bit about what's kind of carried you to this point in the Search and Destroy? So can you maintain that? Illy stuff. Illy was it was something.
Yeah, hopefully he takes care of himself, gets everything under control. We'll see what happens. So yeah, 7-13 in hard point, 2-9 in control, but obviously a great search team. Over to the other 5-6 team, maybe by surprise, maybe not, was to the Los Angeles Guerrillas. Diamond Khan was great throughout stage 1. Competitive here in the respawns. Again, another team that's struggled in Search and Destroy. As far as I know, they're sticking together. I don't think there's been anything with this team, but you get 3-0 by FaZe, you win 3-1 over LAT, you win 3-2 over Vegas in a reverse sweep.
You had maybe the most memorable moment of the weekend, like Fame's triple, maybe. Wasn't it Fame where it's like that random transfer hits the bullet on the guy behind the car?
Oh yeah, that was insane.
Yeah, that might have been my most memorable moment of the weekend. Like honestly, I was like, wait, where's the third guy? And you were watching slow mo and realized how he actually got it. That was nuts.
Or the other most memorable moment, or one of them of the weekend, Adam installing his hand warmers.
Never going to shy away from. Assault. Boston.
I need to get better at my left hand now that my thumb is got to get stronger in my left hand.
Yeah. You could just if it doesn't work, just try slap and whatever.
Yeah, I've got 2 braces. I got another one here. This one's even. Dude, I can't even move anything, bro.
Anyway,
I've got multiple braces, bro.
Listen, I didn't think that was going to happen. This is a team that's kind of maybe been wanting a moment like this, so getting behind the team. Maybe not in the. That's how you shake the hand warmers, yeah. Maybe not in the fashion that they wanted, but the crowd got behind this squad.
It did. Dude, there were a couple things that have just been surprising me. I know with the GA stuff, how Seattle was viewed, but when I knew of Illy coming back and all this, that team being a chip on their shoulder, I thought they were going to be fan favorites at times, and now they've become the villains. LAG, I didn't really see that whole thing happening with the hand warmers, and suddenly the crowd was really behind them. It was sort of an interesting weekend for that type of stuff, but
it really was, yeah.
I did not see the hand warmers really taking off like they did. The first time I saw it, I was like, haha, and then I saw 400 more times over the course of the weekend.
Even when they played their one match, what was that, Saturday night? They were the last one.
Did you believe Amazon's calling me?
The people were all over that. So they end up inevitably losing in a game 5 versus Rokkr. But listen, they're 8th overall in CDL points with 50. This is a young team. I think similar to Carolina, where I just want to see where this roster goes. Because I think it can go in multiple ways. It could go in they're going to figure out search, stay competitive and respawn, and be a really fun team to watch. Or I think this could go south very quickly.
I feel the same exact way. Yeah. I don't know. I don't have. Dude, I don't know how I feel about LAG. Remember this is the team I was convinced they were really a good team. After hearing about kind of scrims and stuff, and then
struggling online.
And this, yes, exactly. Then they start struggling right after that. I'm like, oh well, what the fuck do I know? Apparently nothing. I don't really feel all that different, I guess, after the major. I thought they were capable of getting a top 6. They did.
Okay.
I think anything changed too much for me.
All right, then over to maybe what a turnaround from this team. Biggest surprise, I think, for everybody.
Yeah.
Bracket buster. 4th place, Minnesota Rokkr. How in the hell did they do this?
Bro, they looked dead in the water a month ago. At least that's how it
started the league 1-2. Was it 0-4?
0-4? Yeah.
Then they go to 2-3-4. They win 3 in a row online, and then they upset New York. They do end up getting smoked by Ultra, but they then win another one in the game 5 versus LAG. And honestly, they had a pretty competitive game versus OpTic.
Yeah.
They kind of get bullied around in those hard points, but I just think the turnaround, you just got to give them their props. I did not see this happening. I thought this team was team change 100%.
Same. And it seems like one of those squads now where if they can just bump the S&D a bit, they're that 2-3-5 threat that people are scared of because they're right around 50-50 and the respawns. If they just get the start, you can't make a deep run. Fourth is a deep run. That's a great job, but you're not going to win the event if you're 50-50 in all modes. You need one that's sort of your carry. If they can just find that one mode that's sort of Well, actually, I'd have to look at like more recently, like just from the major, because we're looking at the overall numbers, which is tough because they improved so much. So yeah, ignore what I just said, because that's like over the course. That's including like the 0-4. I'm more just saying if they've got one mode that's sort of their bread and butter, like they have a real chance to like make an even deeper run.
I think their search got better over the weekend because they end up beating LAG in 2 searches, right? But you could see there Rokkr having some fun. Thank fuck for Raven. As they were able to, take care of business there. But yeah. When you get that going, able to take down New York.
Dude, this game is literally like the no
LAG.
staking thing has just brought some people back from, like Clay and accuracy. Like people, struggled in some titles where the movements may be a little more advanced. Like accuracy out there doing his thing.
Yeah, I think we're just hoping. Lindsay's been great for this team.
Yeah,
you're just looking at someone else to step up. I think for us, we've kind of focused on Awakening, who could potentially be a star for this team. We said it a lot at the major, sort of Giga Wake. If he can get into that form, we'll see what this team can do. But they have, very much turned their season around. With how good they were at the events, they're in 4th place now in CDL standings with 75 points. They're ahead of New York. They're 25 points behind OpTic. We'll see with stage 2 how they get. But that's it for Rokkr. Over to our 3rd place team, Maeve. With OpTic, you good?
Amazon. Yeah, it'll take a 2.5 minute voicemail. I'll deal with that. Let's get to our 3rd place team, Joe.
The saga continues.
It's my dumbbells, bro. It's my dumbbells. I got to get those so I can start lifting, man. I think they left them outside.
You literally have a gym to walk to. But anyways.
Walking.
It's not far.
150 yards.
Yeah, over to OpTic. You get wins over Miami, Surge, and Rokkr, which I think you say those 3 teams, I think expected wins. But then they lose to FaZe twice. They finish in 3rd. I think the thing that stands out to me about this team is kind of like the 2 ways that they lost is like kind of a concern.
Like total opposite. Like you've lost in just every way you can, sort of.
Yeah, the first way they lose in a game 5, they lost 2-3-5.
And you lose both hard points, right? In the next one?
Yeah, and then the second one, the vetoes changed. They didn't play Skid Row hardpoint, which I think was a question mark for a lot of people, and they opted for Terminal. They lose all the respawns, they win the search versus FaZe in the losers final, right? Yeah, losers final. Listen, I think if I was an OpTic fan, I'm pretty happy with it. Top 3, competitive on Sunday. Could have gone differently though. I think each player, like between like Kenny, Shotzi, and Dashy, they had some maps where everyone's a little bit off, but Pred was consistent as hell throughout the weekend. He was great. Probably what you hoped for as an OpTic fan. Just a beast slaying monster.
Is there enough time gone by like that do you put any stock in the sense that their change was a bit more dramatic than Ultra and FaZe? They got started a little bit late, obviously, with Pred traveling, whatever the visa. Like, do those matter at this stage already after the first major? Like the fact that maybe it was a little bit easier to get going in this title if you're Ultra and FaZe and make a 1-person swap. Right, it's a pretty significant change for OpTic. Like, is it just more of they need a bit more time? This team can be obviously a serious threat to be winning tournaments.
I think, I think just maybe philosophies, right? We know the type of player that Kenny is, and I think Pred talked about it on stream. Like they said that they kind of had to flip their vetoes a lot. Like subbase, it's not like supposedly they didn't even practice really having subbase as sort of the map pick that they thought. It was we're just going to throw it in there and see what happens, and it got much better at LAN. So they just kind of winged it. And Subbase ended up being that map. It's like, I guess some scrims at the LAN weren't going well on other maps. So they were just like, F it, let's play Subbase.
Well, what was the thing that was on Reddit or whatever that Ann found where they were like, somebody said something, Dashy was like, shh. Is that what you're talking about?
No. Supposedly Pred, I guess, after the event literally said like, no, we didn't like plan for this. It's just that scrims weren't going great at the event, and we just threw Subbase in.
Okay. Yeah, I thought there was like something more to something Ant was saying in the green room. I couldn't remember exactly what he said, but if that's post-event, that's after what I'm thinking about. So, I mean, that'll happen sometimes. I'm sure it happens sometime in your pro career where you've had a map that in scrims isn't really clicking a certain weekend you're scrimming. You're like, this feels good, and you play it. I'm sure that's happened to every team.
It probably happens a lot more than people think, where a strategy or something you're doing online is working extremely well. You get to an event and it is just not working. It does happen very often.
Do you think it's probably less nowadays there's probably more online balance now, right? With the dedicated servers that we have and the way things work versus like the old days. Or, I mean, if you go real far back, you get player hosts and stuff. There's probably less of that now, I think. Like the online swings a little bit less, but it can still happen, surely.
No, it absolutely could. Or just the map is starting to go really well, and then a couple of, I don't know, tough scrims and maybe some arguments, discussions, and you're just like, fuck it, let's just play something else. Like we can't get on the same page.
Listen, I'm sure for people at home that play, it just ranked, or like you have your favorite maps, you have your maps that kind of click for you, your maps that don't click. Sometimes for me, it's just been like, I'm just playing something like in any game and something just clicks. We're like, oh, this makes sense now. This feels good. I like this. And that can just happen. It might be a one-player thing. Yeah, he's getting to a flow and suddenly like, oh, we're fine all of a sudden.
Yeah, I think, it could absolutely happen. Like I said, probably happens more often than not, or than you think. Again, I think if you just, can we bring up their player cards again? To me, this just screams like a Kenny team. How many times have we seen his teams be great at respawn early in the year, kind of struggle at search? Maybe that's what bites them in the ass, and then they get better at search and they get really, really good, right? Like this, there's kind of that trend.
OpTic teams too over the years.
True, you're not wrong. You're not wrong.
Maybe not more recently, but you think over the course of like there was a 5-6 year stretch where it was the same shit.
Yeah, I think this is another one where you look at like just the meta. Player like Shotzi, this isn't probably the easiest thing for him. Very limited. Maybe bringing in maps like Rio helps him out. I think OpTic is, I mean, I think they're going to be very competitive throughout the year.
I think you walk away like, I don't know, it just seems very fixable. Like you know where your improvements need to be. You know what to target, work on it, and see how it goes. But yeah, no, they should be a consistent force. On to FaZe. Shit. I mean, I guess they had me convinced. Well, okay. Well, our one worry when we were talking about hard points, you and I just like off stream, just chatting, was like the hard points have improved. They're getting way more wins, but it's been a lot of these like just clutch wins, right? Clutch wins that they've been able to do. Disappears a bit on land, and here we are. Like now, I'm just wondering, is it the same old FaZe?
Yeah, so tournament starts off well for them. They get some early wins, 3 over LAG. But yeah, kind of what you were talking about, your woes or hardpoint concerns come into play, where they lose both to OpTic. They still win the match, which I think is good, right? You get tested a little bit. You know, you have Draza on this team now. Simp had a crazy series. And we haven't seen FaZe versus Ultra. We get to the winners final, and I was like, this is done.
It's like how much do you put in like our FaZe as good as we thought they are? Ultra were just one of those stages, one of those weekends for Ultra where they just were above everyone because they kind of fry everybody. It's not like FaZe are the only team to get shit on. Ultra were running through everybody.
Like, no. I don't know.
I don't know where I'm at with it. Like
we saw this at the program last year with New York, right? I mean, New York was a solid online team. They get to the LAN, and they just looked miles ahead. And everybody was like, yeah, they just figured the game out. They figured the game out, right? We don't know that, right? We're not seeing their scrims every single day. So we have no clue. It's just we didn't see these matchups. It's not like we saw FaZe versus Ultra online. We just didn't. So we had no clue. We were ready for a banger. And I mean, even the winners final was a 3-1. But you could just tell, I mean, the 6-1 invasion searched them. Ultra did. They beat them by 125 on sub base hardpoints. They won the Karachi hardpoint pretty comfortably. I think you were just watching that winners final, like, yeah, they are a couple of steps behind of Ultra. But I will say, if you then look at the final series, I think it was much closer.
That's a coin flip in some spots, bro. No, that's a coin flip. And
I don't know about coin flip.
Well, okay, sorry. I more mean like the two maps that kind of were like a coin flip towards the end, like in those clutch moments. It was like 2 hard points decided by like 10 points. It was Karachi and Skid Row. And Karachi, they had diner control, if I remember correctly. And like that close, like parallel spawn came in, but Ultra, it was just sort of everyone off to the races. It was one of those frantic moments where if you look at it, probably as people are getting set up, FaZe were there first. FaZe probably should have won. If they win both those hard points, who knows how that final goes? That's more what I mean by a coin flip. Like they just those two maps, they were very, very winnable. And if they win those two, who the hell knows? It's not at all like the winners final. I'm like, they just got shit on. This was a battle.
Yeah, I think it was a closer tournament than people expected, or a closer final. But I will say this: I don't think anybody had them losing all 3 searches to Ultra.
All 3. Ant and I were arguing, and even after the winners final, I still thought they were the better search team. And then in the final, I'm like, oh shit, no, fuck me, I'm wrong there.
Yeah, we just saw those player cards. They were 12-4 in S&D. 3 of those losses throughout stage 1 came versus Ultra. They lost these maps 18-5 round count. It's not even like they were close. It was 2 6-2s and a 6-1. Ultra bodied them. So that was probably my biggest surprise. It's like, okay, you had your clutch moments that didn't go your way in the hard points. But this is a team now with like Draza. I mean, Abizi struggled in a finals again with a 0.78. Again, could be the game. Whatever.
Well, I think we've been making this excuse for basically every player in that role right now. Yeah. It's just a little weird, this title.
I think I saw the stat. It's like 9 of 22 on Sundays, Mav. Like finals wise.
Insane. It's wild. Like I saw someone said in a comment, like people don't talk nearly enough about the fact they've won one event since Cold War. I'm like, I think it's brought up all the time, but I think it's weird because like everybody wants to win. But like I think most people, if you're former pros or someone like myself that like you watch this and you care about the league, the biggest thing you probably put stock in is average placement. Like that's the hardest thing
consistency
to keep. It's consistency. So like when you look at their average placement, you're like, wow, it's unbelievable. But on the flip side of that, like what was it like? The JCap stat, like the second places I saw, it's like Abizi's already approaching it or something like that, or caught him. It's like pretty unbelievable. Where I don't know. It's like they're so good, just not good enough.
The only thing I'll say with this one is like we just didn't know how good Ultra was. Obviously, some of the previous ones, a lot of the times we went in like FaZe, the heavy, like a favorite, right? And maybe you look at post Cold War, like Vanguard. I mean, they were in literally every single one, and they lost every single one. So that is a big part of this record. I just like. I don't know what it is, why they can't close on some of these days. That's sort of the question. And I think the problem is that like mentally, this has to be tough. How is it not? And if this keeps up, there just may be one of these guys might just be like, I just got to see like kind of like what else is out there. Like I can't keep doing this.
At what point do you just like break? It's just weird because like you still are the average. You're there every Sunday. Like I know it's just weird, bro.
But someone might just be like, fuck it, I got to see something different.
I just don't know if the core 3 is ever. They seem to just be good, bro. I mean, every time I like hear about it, they're just like they're pals. There's no splitting them up, but eventually you're right. Maybe something
someone might just break down. I don't know how you wouldn't.
Yeah,
how you wouldn't. So we'll see a FaZe.
What's crazy too, though, is like you put sort of like can't close, but like they had a perfect like clutch record, right? Like in the online portion, perfect. Like anytime it was like I think a 30-point hard point, they won. That just went out the fucking window come the tournament. Now it's a weird stat because I don't know. It's just strange within 30 points, but like they were basically perfect, and then they lost in all those moments.
Yeah,
I don't
know. But yeah, another second place for FaZe again with Rio. I think this helps, sort of simping up easy, but Sim's been unreal.
Insane. I mean, I think he's pretty fine in that role. Give him an AR. Like I don't think he really cares. He's sort of Mr. Do It All. We know that, but yeah, BZ seems to be going through a little bit in this title.
All right, and then over to our champions, the Toronto Ultra, on the Toronto Ultra podcast.
Get me to a hard point, and I'm gonna come.
Do we That is true. Do we start the like Canadian national anthem? Can we put that on there? Oh, can it? Okay, no, we don't have to. I mean, you and I talked about it. We didn't cast them online at all.
Not one single time.
Not one time. So we didn't see them, which kind of
we
made
saw
it tough.
them, but like it's weird when you cast, like it's weird. You just watch it way more. Like when I've caught up like in the background or like I'm watching a match, like you just don't watch it with the same like focus that you do when you're casting. It's just different. It is.
And honestly, I haven't seen like I've seen some scrims with them, but holy fuck, were they good? I mean, like you just see the hardpoint 15-1. The search got better and better. Obviously, at the event, you know, you win 3 versus FaZe in the winners final and final.
Well, this is where when we had to listen in with them, it was Skid Row. I think it was like a 2-minute listen, and we heard the difference between when we're talking about what's going on with FaZe in these moments. Like the difference between what we'll hear with like a FaZe or like a lot of the other teams versus them, like it was literally like they were in a library, bro. Like just chatting. I don't know if Scrap had to say a word during the 2 minutes. They broke P2 on Skid Row, one of the hardest to break, and it was just sort of like okay, nice job, guys. And like that level of calm, and that's been a thing we've talked about with a lot of even their teams before, like this change. Before you brought in Envoy in, before you brought Scrap in, like the culture of this team going back, and like it's just like I don't get how they're like that. I don't understand how you're just so calm. It freaks me out, Joe. It makes my brain hurt.
Well, I think the plan is next week to hopefully talk to one of them on the podcast. We'd love to chat with them, and before we're going into stage 2, and maybe ask some of those questions. But I go back to our episode with Bance and just kind of the way he talked about it. And I think that was the start of it, right? Like that Cold War year and even before that. But he talked about how they only scrim like once a day. They just watched some VODs. They kind of hung out. And I think it's probably similar here. Like it's like we're going to ramp ourselves up for one scrim, which is totally different than everyone else. It's like it's a different culture thing. We're going to ramp up or sort of play our game for 2 to 3 hours. Because if you think about it, it's not like old school tournaments. CDL matches, you have one a day. Most of the major, you have one a day, except for potentially for Sunday. You ramp up for a few hours, you do your job, and you're done. And it feels like
it's like, you know, you've seen us do
some of the extra they have. Okay, let's listen to this.
Okay, yeah. Let's start. We got a video of Insight kind of talk about. Let's go to that. He talks about better than we're going to.
It's like, you know, you've seen us doing all the hand stretches and all that stuff, and make jokes about it and all that. But like, doing stuff like that as a team is like so important. I feel like just creates like that unity in the team. Like getting up and doing something, getting away from the monitors, getting away from the bots, and laughing and joking, doing your stretches or going for dinner, whatever it may be. You do as a team, as long as you're doing it together and creating that like brotherhood outside of the game. I feel like that reflects in game as well. Because, you know, in the past, like when I was an AM, I'm sure it's like, you know, you've seen us doing all the hand stretch.
So, I mean, there's a couple of things I want to take from this. If you ever see Ultra walking around at an event, there are like some extra folks that aren't like the coaches with them. Like they have, I'll probably get something wrong here, but like a performance director, they have like, there's extra elements to this team that I don't think some teams have, and it feels like it's working.
You're talking like therapists, nutritionists, like that type of stuff,
yeah.
like different like coaching. I don't know exactly what they are, but okay, I just want to clarify what you meant.
I mean, yeah, making sure they're taking care of their bodies, what they're eating and drinking on match days. Like it feels like they're taking this another level, and I think in the past this has worked. It's just that you didn't have Envoy and Scrap on this team. Like if you look at past Ultra teams, they've been the second most consistent team throughout the CDL. It's just like felt like they needed a little. They just got out talented at times, right?
That's why we thought the team be so scary when they got Envoy. It's weird because like I guess I was like surprised how good they were this weekend, like how far ahead they were. But then in my head, I'm like, why? I remember when they were making this change. I was like, dear fucking God, because you got this team even before when you had Bance who was maybe struggling at times. Or the team when they just couldn't keep up, like they still were a threat to anyone and everyone, and still were like a top 2. Yeah, still a threat to everyone at all times. Now you do like this is more of a New York like pack a punch. Like you really do upgrade in some spots where you have some fucking firepower, and you're able to maintain that same level of like chemistry and calmness and camaraderie. And I don't know, maybe I'm overhyping it, but like, are they just gonna? I don't know if this is slowing down.
No, this was a Cold War like FaZe stage. This is like complete dominance. I mean, look at the stats here: 15-1, 9-3, 7-4. Obviously, they know where they can improve. The tough thing for them is going to stage 2 of the game. I don't want to say it completely changes, but it changes a lot. I'm not like worried about it, but when you're this good, it obviously kind of sucks when the game has a bit of an overhaul. But yeah,
But if I
don't
trusted
know.
a team to like figure it out, where their heads at, feel like they're gonna figure it out.
Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, just their listenings, how they operate. They're like fucking robots.
They really are. It's just it's insane to me when I hear them talk to each other. Sometimes I'm sure there are moments that are maybe a little more frantic, but I couldn't believe that. So that was like one of the biggest takeaways for me at the event. I just heard that. I don't really tweet all that much anymore. I think my only tweet at the event, or one of my few, was like about that. I was just like, what the shit? What are we listening to? They're so calm, just going around spanking people.
Yeah, they absolutely are. CleanX wins your MVP. Props to CleanX. I mean, he was incredible. He's just been a staple for this team since the start. I think I saw a tweet the other day. I'm going to try to find
Easily
it.
gone to Insight too. Like, I mean, honestly, they were on another level.
Well, if you look at the final stats, you will see some pretty crazy numbers because Insight has a 1.42 in the finals. The rest are all under a 1. They did like the slaying was very close in that final. Like
I figured it should be with the hard points the way they were. Like,
yeah, but I mean, he literally was plus 25. So insane stuff for him. But overall, as a tournament, I mean, yeah, MVP. And yeah, here's this tweet. This is from Brian Sats.
Either of them could have got it, bro. Like,
he is a 5-time champion now. He is one of 8 players who hasn't missed a single league match in CDL history. I thought that was awesome. He is He's the first player to win a tournament in all 5 years of the CDL, which I thought was awesome. And he has 2 champs finals appearances, one of 17 players to accomplish it. So this guy's building a resume, and this is what I mean. Like, you know, you're hearing like the NBA, like the heat culture. Like I really do. Hopefully we have one on next year and just like talk to them about sort of their practicing outside the game, because it feels like they are doing something a little bit different than everyone else. Like
yeah,
everybody's like, we got a 2 to 3 series in. We got a VOD. We gotta do this, and they're like, we're gonna play our ones, or at least we'll see how much it changed. But remember, Bance was like, yeah, we shut up. We hardly warmed up. Played our one series and we got off.
Well, we never asked Bance was sort of who was like the lead of that, like who was pushing that. Like, was it a player? Was it somebody on the organization? As more changes happen with this team, I'm starting to wonder that even more. So I would love to have a player on, just ask him like who's doing it. It's impressive.
Yeah, there's that tweet. I mean, guys, CleanX has been a monster. Excited to see this team. And again, you add Rio into this mix. You have Envoy. I was literally watching a scrap last night, and he's like, I can't fucking wait to run a sub on this map. Like, he just can't wait. So, yeah, I think you have the talent, the power of, if it's a 3 SMG map, like let's run it. But now I guess we'll see how long they can stay on top.
Yeah, that's all I find myself thinking about right now. Like, how far ahead are they? Like, is this one of those things where we're like, whew, we are in for a year of Ultra just shitting on people? Or is it just more in the moment? But I mean, that is one of those stages, like you said, like one of those phenomenal stages where I just see my head dominating New York or like FaZe just had.
Yeah, it was just a question.
It was awesome to see.
You had like the one Boston 3-0, so we were like, what the fuck's happening here?
Yeah, that was the one thing that sort of confused me in the middle. Like you said, you and I, like, yeah, I think just because we didn't cast them all in the online league, I'm just like, oh, they're good. In my head, I'm like, they're a good team. But I just didn't realize like exactly where they were at. And then, well, I don't know if anyone knew they were at this point, but damn, hell of a win. Congrats to them.
Yeah, congrats to them in Toronto Ultra. Make sure to get did people still buy Toronto Ultra merch for the champions? I hope so. Make sure to check that out if you can.
I have no idea, but I'm going to say yes.
I'm plugging on the Toronto Ultra podcast because I can, because it's the Toronto Ultra podcast. Make sure to get your Toronto Ultra skins as well, because it's probably the best camo. And yes, I just heard you still can buy the shirt and the merch. So
There we go. There we go.
For Maven and myself, thanks for tuning in and listening to us to be idiots.
Yeah, well, what are we doing though? We want to go for a walk? It's beautiful outside. Do you want to go on a walk or what, dude? Should I just head to your place now?
I gotta make a phone call, and then I gotta
Just try to get on the Peloton. Get the Peloton first.
No.
To just wait for you to contact me about a romantic walk.
Yeah.
And then at 5 p.m. we have the Italian food truck.
Yeah.
Where I'm gonna get some delicious chicken parm.
Just like that.
Bye.